All right, everybody, welcome back to the Hoopz Junkiez Podcast. I'm your host Marcus. We got my brother AB.
What
We
up?
got our favorite hater from the Golden State, Hot Take Jay,
One time.
and we got a special guest in the building. We trying to make this an unfair advantage over this Golden State hater over here, and so we picked up another H-Town. We drafted him just a few minutes ago. This is my other brother, Chuck. What up, Chuck?
What's up?
So we want to discuss this whole James Harden saga that's going down today. And this is an emergency podcast. We were calling all help to the floor to discuss this thing. AB, what's happening with James Harden?
Looked like he finally got his wish. That's what's happening with him, and I'm happy for him. So, Jason over there, ready to pounce.
Well, hold on.
Put me on the spot. Don't drag me in it.
Before we start this whole wrestling match, hold on. AB, what's the details on it though? Like, we got James Harden is gone. But
yeah. That's why I'm already ready to go in, because Jay gonna have to own up to it.
We'll talk about those details, but
basically, we traded James Harden for 4 unprotected first-round picks, 3 of them from the Nets in 2020, 22, 24, 25. I might have the years wrong.
22, 24, 26.
Every other year.
Milwaukee's unprotected in 22. And then 4 swaps.
4 pick swaps. So essentially, we control the Brooklyn Nets' next 7 draft picks. Unprotected from Milwaukee. We don't know what that's going to be, but I think they weakened their team, and they're one injury at the right spot away from being ripe for falling off. And then we also scooped up Victor Oladipo as salary filler, pretty good two-way player, 2-time All-Star in the East. Won't make it in the West, but hey, solid player, all for a player that won it out. So,
hey,
I'm good with that.
I'm good. Hey, if James,
some other ancillary pieces too, but they're inconsequential.
Yeah. So, man, I'm telling you, all day, my phone has been buzzing because Aaron and Jason been going at it with each other on text all day. I've been having to hear. I'm sitting there trying to work, and my phone is just buzzing because they just going at each other on text. I'm like,
that's the perks
y'all
of
save it
retirement.
for the podcast, please. Save it for the podcast.
Some of us got responsibilities, man.
So we want to bring Chuck into this discussion. But
first impressions, man. Yeah, Chuck, an outsider to the podcast. Please give your take on this, man.
Yeah,
good, bad, and the ugly. Was you expecting more? Like, give it to me raw, because this over here is tainted, man. I can't even.
Chuck, we're gonna get your take first, and then we're gonna let Jason go back and talk about his beef, like what you've been texting about all day, bro. So that way you know what's going on with him and Aaron.
I can sum up Jay. He been hating the whole time. That's all.
What's your take on it?
Well, I talked to Aaron earlier today. I told him that I liked it before the actual trade happened. I was on Bleacher Report, and they were saying the Rockets was in talk with Philly. And I thought that it would be Philly the whole time. I felt like James Harden wanted to be back with Daryl Morey, but because he's his own agent, that he couldn't necessarily come out and demand that he be traded to Philly, like right off the rip, just simply because it would have looked maybe something like tampering. And I liked the package of Ben Simmons and Tyrone Maxey. I did.
I actually like that
and because for me, I still want, and I think the team has a chance to still be competitive. A contender, probably not competitive. Yeah, as long as everybody's buying in, and now they get to play team ball, quote unquote. People saying that the Rockets don't play team ball because James Harden his style of play. And that's a conversation for another time because if you start the game with basically 35 points, like I don't know who's complaining about that. But all in all, it's cool. You knew it was over. I compare it to like a relationship where somebody's, basically said they done,
Yeah.
and the other person is like, I'm going, nah, let's work through it. Let's work through it. Man, once somebody gone, they're gone. James Harden was gone the moment he, reiterated that he wanted to be traded after the rumors first broke. And it was just up to the Rockets how long they was going to allow themselves to suffer trying to re-win somebody over who had already told you that their eyes and their hearts was in somewhere else. So it was a good coup. I was explaining to my coworkers at the barbershop that, this puts us kind of with Oklahoma City, the Celtics, the Pelicans possibly,
Yep.
the Mavericks maybe, like the Atlanta Hawks. These are in those tiers of teams that not in the current state of the NBA are going to be competitive. But after these older stars, these, the Steph Currys and LeBron James and the KDs and even now James Harden that he's elsewhere, the Anthony Davis, once these guys start to get to their mid-30s and these other young teams start to emerge, we'll be in that pack of teams because of all these draft picks. So that's my take.
Yeah. So hearing that, Jay, what do you think? Do you agree with that, or do you got a different take on that?
I think the trade was good, but I think that there was money left on the table. And what I mean by that,
give it a grade, Jay.
B-. Thought it was a B-. My stance before the season started, and I get crucified for this, you can't be hot take Jay without making hot takes. And my stance before the season started was he's done. Take what you can get now. I even went as far as to say, and I understand the optics around it, saying like you were going to trade him in 2 weeks, put in your best offer, and he's done. I get it, and how that can diminish his return value. But at the same time, I anticipated this very situation. I asked y'all hypothetical questions. If the season starts and you ain't really in playoff contention, and there's 3 different trade values, James Harden with 2 seasons left, 1.5 seasons left, and after this season's over.
So
And
do you think they got less now than they would?
I think that they got less now than they would have gotten at the beginning of the season. That's why I asked you if this is a package you was happy with. And
I'm happy with it.
Let me cut to the chase. My biggest problem is you didn't get one premium asset, not one. You didn't get not one top. We're going to go 7 years. We're going to go 7 years, and none of these picks is projected to be in the top 5. Now, something could happen. Somebody in Milwaukee could get hurt. Somebody in Brooklyn is already up out of there, damn near. Like, something could happen. Y'all could hit, man. We can go down the list of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, all these stars. Pascal Siakam was like 20 overall. You can clean up. But this is a bird in the hand versus 2 in the bush. And y'all walking away with Victor Oladipo, an Eastern Conference All-Star, is and 8 picks projected to be 15 and above. That's not it.
It sounded like they had Ben Simmons on a platter if they wanted. From all reports that's coming out.
To each his own. Eye of the beholder. If you didn't, I liked Ben Simmons. One voluntary 3-point attempt to me, maybe I'm overstating it.
Yeah, because you're extreme.
No. It signals a mind shift, and at least Daryl Morey is getting through to him. But Ben Simmons is the kind of optimism that I'm talking about, a bird in the hand.
What Ben Simmons,
all these other guys you're talking about, 8 picks between 15 and 30? What is that?
Hold on, Jay. Let me push back. Because when the Pelicans got what they got for Anthony Davis, you praised it. Right? When the Thunder got what they got this offseason, you praised it. That's and last offseason by getting us to, right? They finessed us too. and you praised it, and you've been going on record talking about how Sam
The
Presti
Pelicans
might
got
be
Brandon.
the best.
The Pelicans got Brandon
you said Sam
Ingram.
Presti might be the best GM in basketball because of how he set them up. Is it not the exact same thing?
Let me say something. Let me say something too, Jay. You were saying that the Rockets, if they would have pulled the trigger earlier, they would have probably got more of a premium.
I think so.
But I disagree with that, and the reason why is because I've been watching the Bleacher Reports and all of that, and none of the teams wouldn't want to trade. They wouldn't want to give up Michael Porter Jr. Denver wouldn't want to give up Michael Porter Jr.
Some of that's posturing.
That is posturing, and not directly. Maybe the Nuggets didn't want Harden, but they was willing to give up Michael Porter Jr. if it got a Bradley Beal.
Well, hold on, Jay. Say what you told me. No, don't, man. Quit sugarcoating. Say what you said. What you thought James Harden's value was, and why I was going to be disappointed. Go ahead and be honest. You said he wasn't worth nothing. I got a text on my phone right now from a couple days ago where you said that we should be looking at Miles Turner.
See, sometimes you got to look.
Those are fan favorites of mine. Miles Turner,
you gotta
Lonzo
dig.
Ball. You got to look for
Lonzo Ball.
Undervalued assets, and when they go to another team and they give an unconditional love, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, that people was hating on him.
What did you say?
That's out of context, Charles. Don't say Lonzo Ball for James Harden. I'm saying this. Let me just not sidestep the vulgarity here and just say that there's nothing tangible here in this trade, bro. I ran down a list. John Collins, Kobe White, Michael Porter Jr., Miles Bridges, Kevin Porter on the Cavs, Tyler Hero, Shai Gilgeous, Marvin Bagley, Pascal Siakam. They didn't get none of these guys. Not one.
Jump in there, Chuck. Jump up in there, Chuck. What you think about
the thing about it is, it's early, but the returns are favorable and look promising. It looked like the Rockets unearthed a gem in Christian Woods, and
I like him.
He looks to be about to become the centerpiece. You know what I'm saying, of the next wave of Houston Rocket basketball teams, for better or worse. I mean, it's looking like they kind of knocked it out the park with this guy. As far as Victor Oladipo is concerned, man, this is not my stance. I'm just mirroring a lot of the conversations that I get at the barbershop. A lot of people, just didn't like James Harden's style of basketball. ISO this, ISO that. They didn't like his style of play. And so they have been clamoring for more team ball. You know what I'm saying? And as a Rocket fan, the biggest fear that I have coming down the stretch of a game, any game, doesn't matter how big the game is okay, what's the clutch factor of the people on the floor at this point? However, you know what I'm saying? Victor Oladipo is a good, nice, solid piece to an ensemble cast. If you're not asking him to carry the team, so now that means he's supposed to work in conjunction with Christian Woods, in conjunction to John Wall, in conjunction with Eric Gordon. You know what I'm saying? Now they get to play system ball, which is what everybody's been clamoring for. So I can't say they didn't get a tangible asset. They've given this new coach a chance to come in and shape his culture. And when anybody, in any form of life, when the management changes over or y'all get a new boss at work or whatever the case may be, they want to come in and set the environment to what they want it to be. And this gives Silas a chance to have a blank slate, so to speak, without a domineering presence.
Oladipo will get out there and run with Wall too. So they're gonna play defense. Wall and Oladipo are gonna play hard defense. They're gonna hustle, and they're gonna get out and run. So you got a team that are younger that's meant to get out and run. But yeah, Jay, I can't let you make it, man. When that Drew Holiday trade, when I said that was the minimum, I was like, that's the bar. If Drew Holiday went for 4 first-round picks and what he went for, then that's the bar. And the Rockets got to get the same thing. And you were like, they won't get it. Drew Holiday fits on every team. he's a superstar. Whether you like it or not, and whether that's your preferred guy or whatever, or whether
Sometimes-
you would do it, other teams will do it.
Sometimes with Jason, there's some gems in what he says sometimes, but
There's
then
a lot of
sometimes
gems
you
in what he
gotta
says.
you gotta dig past the hate, because sometimes he just be mad, and then you like, okay, I'm throwing that away. He know better than
You
that.
can't. No, you can. You can.
Sometimes you just be mad at Harden, and then you throw some crazy I'll just trade him for pennies on the dollar. No,
But let me say
you gotta
this:
get past that.
since we got Jason on the phone and he's a Golden State Warriors guy.
Jason
Yeah,
on the
Golden State Warriors
podcast.
hater.
Jason on the podcast. We ain't on the phone.
In the next, in the next few weeks, we're gonna read a lot about the era that was under James Harden, Daryl Morey, and Mike D'Antoni that's no longer here.
Yeah,
They
all
gonna
that
grade
stuff
it. They
coming
gonna
up, yep.
break it down. Like I don't understand why his legacy would need to be tainted. Yes, he act the ass. I'm sorry if that's too much cussing, but he act a fool on the way out the door, no doubt. But if his legacy is that he just couldn't beat a dynasty, which is what Golden State was at the time, then how does that stain his resume? It's like the Sacramento Kings of the late 90s, 2000s not being able to beat the actual Shaq and Kobe when they were actually getting along and winning.
Good
So if he ended up losing out to them, or John Stockton and Malone losing to the Bulls 2 consecutive years in a row, like how does that stain his legacy if he was losing to an active dynasty?
Okay, so I'll put it to you like this, and I've tried to play that middle ground of respecting who James is, and then also being objective, which classifies me as a hater. But what James is a first class bucket getter. James is a tank. James carries a team, carries the water, and is going to drag them Nets to the playoffs, even if their depth ain't it. James lost me personally as an objective NBA casual fan when he insisted that they spend half their credit card on Chris Paul. And then when that went sideways, he said, spend the rest of your credit card on Russell Westbrook. This is my player partner from way back. We from Southern California, bring him in. And when you knew what Russ stood for, after Dwight, after CP3, after now Russell Westbrook ran his behind out of town. And now after you got your $200 million, after you get your Adidas money, after you get unconditional love from Houston, it's on you to make this work. You don't get to go up there and light fire to a situation in front of cameras talking about get me up out of here. Like take some pride in your craft and have some dignity around the contract that you accepting and this love that you getting from a city. You don't, dude, just honor your contract. Shut the hell up and go to work, man.
He was out on James Harden way before Russell
Jay, you
Westbrook.
beat that
But Russell Westbrook flipped
you beat
it.
that desk and that microphone up, brother.
No, hey, I'm telling you, Russell Westbrook lit it on fire for me. And it's no different than Kyrie Irving right now. Because if you really want the vitriol, we can talk about Kyrie, but that ain't what today is about.
Who
signed a contract? You got what you wanted. You wanted to go to New Jersey. You wanted to be with KD. And now all the circumstances are right and you still lighting it on fire?
Yeah. I can't excuse Kyrie.
But this ain't to that magnitude, but this is the same. You got everything you wanted.
Hey,
you asked for
I don't blame him from asking for Chris Paul. It looked like it was the right move. They was on the cusp.
And they was right there.
Right?
Shoot your shot when you get it. Shoot your shot.
We got 3 Rocket fans on the phone. I mean on the podcast. Who was injured in the playoffs when it mattered most? Or in a regular season when you're trying to get there? Every year.
Or the next season for like 20-something games.
Yeah. And then in the playoffs,
they could have spent that money. They had CP3 and they had those draft picks. They could have spent that money elsewhere.
Well, okay, but then so then he bring in Russ.
Come in, You can't be the one to alienate him.
You bring in Russ, and then
Go
you
ahead,
get
Charles,
over here.
Man. Let Charles talk, man. He over
Wait,
here.
hold on, let
him rebut him.
Go ahead and finish.
You bring in Russ, and then you get over here, and I know we all supplies. Russ ain't playing any back-to-back games, regardless of the situation, right? And then he gets to the bubble, and he's hurt, and you have to compromise your entire offense. Hey, James is guilty of being bad at a talent evaluator. I'll give you that much. He got to own up to some of the stuff you said, but it ain't all on him.
This is what I say. I have the advantage point of being stationed here in Houston, like for the whole thing. And I told Aaron as much. You know, like down here, you know, they have the saying, "In Morey we trust." You know, like a lot of this is Daryl Morey's fault. First of all, Chris Paul's contract was the number one reason that he's no longer here.
That was about 3 years ago.
It is the number one reason. And I was able to read the articles and stuff. Tillman Fertitta, with his cheap ass, never wanted to pay that contract. He was complaining about it before the ink even dried on the contract. He never wanted to pay that. So with that said, like Chris Paul shot a 4-part documentary detailing him leaving and leaving the Clippers, ultimately choosing the Rockets. It was a 4-part documentary. Man went even sat down with Jay-Z and talked to, you know, listen to Jay-Z while he was recording his album. You know, I think it was Magna Carta Holy Grail album. And talked to him and had Jay-Z tell him, hey, bro, you know what I'm saying? You're going to be flying on the same jets at 140 million that you can fly on for 200 million. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately it's about happiness, because at the moment, Chris Paul was ready to just leave the Clippers as a free agent and outright sign with the Rockets on a 4-year deal, well below the Supermax. He was ready to leave it all because he had identified James Harden as the guy he can team up with and get where he want to go. And it, you know, as it played out, it didn't look like he was wrong. However, Daryl Morey chose to trade for him. You know what I'm saying? Which, you know what I'm saying, started the whole downhill decline and debacle. Because if you got Chris Paul for 4 years, 140 or 150, whatever it was, he could have got maximized as a 4-year free agent versus what he signed as a supermax. You know what I'm saying? Then the team ain't handcuffed, yada, yada, yada. Bring it up to speed. You know what I'm saying? Jason, you're a Golden State Warriors fan. You know what I'm saying? That was the team that's in the Rockets' way pretty much the whole damn time. Well, by the end of the last finals appearance, you knew Kevin Durant was gone as a free agent. Then he tore his Achilles. Clay injured his knee, so you knew he wasn't going to play next year. So the only team in the association able to beat that James Harden, Chris Paul, Clint Capella-led Rocket team was no longer going to be the problem. Why in the hell then, if you're Daryl Morey, do you trade Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook, then end up trading Clint Capella instead of running it back and making the rest of the league show you that they had caught up to the Rockets? The Golden State Warriors were moved out of the way. We no longer have to beat them. So this shit is Daryl Morey. I'm sorry.
No, but
I'm sorry. This is the Daryl Morey thing.
It was, but Harden pushed that. He said, "Go get my homie over here."
Because he also just watched Chris Paul limp through the whole season.
Hey, I'm not exempting.
Charles, do you agree with what Jay just said? Did you agree with what Jay just said, that James Harden is the one who pushed it?
He pushed it. He was 50% of it. I don't know what the number is, but James,
you know what?
Russell Westbrook, he co-signed it. Spend the money, run up.
Hold on, Jay. Let him say.
By all accounts, everything that I had read and heard, it was Tillman Fertitta who, you know what I'm saying, ultimately signed off on it and like strongly urged. You know what I'm saying? Like the articles is out there, you can go read that. However, it's come to light that every year James Harden approached the Rockets with either, you know what I'm saying, let's do this with the roster or I'll demand a trade. You know what I'm saying? It's all starting to come out. So yes, he pushed for Rush. You know what I'm saying? Yes, Tillman Fertitta ultimately had to sign off on it. And then when Daryl Morey said, you know what I'm saying, he had cold feet because of what the Rockets were going to have to give up to get him, he still strongly urged and pushed him. So it's gonna be equal fault between Harden and Tillman Fertitta. And
Do y'all
then, but
believe
his
that?
part in it, Daryl Morey basically allowed James Harden to, you know what I'm saying, run the franchise into the ground as far as like just the culture and how he let him have his way. And then he left with no assets on the table, no way to, you know what I'm saying, basically get ourselves out of it to go take a job in Philly. So in my opinion, he's no better than Bill O'Brien, the way Bill O'Brien left the Texans than the way Moore done the Rockets, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
You know, just because LeBron,
we gotta keep because there's so many more of us on here that we just gotta keep everything. We don't want to talk over each other. So I'm just trying to ask some questions to kind of get some order. So do you think that everything that's going on right now with James Harden is because Tillman Fertitta is now trying to right the ship and take some control back? Is that what you hear in Houston, Charles? About like James Harden not being happy with Daryl Morey leaving and Mike D'Antoni leaving. They don't care pretty much. The Houston Rockets organization is like, we don't care we trying to do what we need to do now because you've been driving this boat the whole time and it's not in the power.
According to that, and I don't want to hijack all the time from everybody else. According to that, they was like, no, James Harden hadn't been told no about nothing. You know, man, if he you know, whatever he wanted to do, they done. You know, case in point, if the Rockets had a back-to-back in, say, Cali, you know what I'm saying, the Lakers or the Clippers, if they didn't have a game, like as long as they were on the front end of a back-to-back, it was guaranteed the Rockets were staying over, you know what I'm saying, in any city that James liked. So we talking Philly, Miami, New York, you know what I'm saying, any place like that, Cali, you know what I'm saying, if they didn't have a back-to-back where they had to get on a flight after a game and go, Rockets were staying in the city. If James Harden had a couple of days off because they were on a home stand, you know what I'm saying, practice is canceled the day after the game because James is going to fly out to Vegas and party. You know what I'm saying? So when all this is going on, it's, you know what I'm saying, now all of a sudden he's been told no. And they say they already knew he was going to act up because it's the first time they ever said something that James he couldn't get. He wanted Tyronn Lue. They hired Stephen Silas. James Harden demanded the trade.
Yeah. What you was getting ready to say, Jay? I know this is right up your alley. You like?
Oh, no. So you know, there's a fundamental difference because there's three other players that do the same thing. One with the practice schedule, whatever. But LeBron James has been a cancer to teams that he left. They ran up the credit card in his first stint in Cleveland, and to each his own. It's all one first time around. He said, we smoked up everything here. Let me go over here to Miami. They smoked up everything, got old, 3 years, draft picks, everything. Oh, Cleveland, you replenished the fridge. Let me come right back over there and we can run that credit card and get Kevin Love and whatever. And then he depleted all their assets, ran them into the ground. Time to go to the Lakers.
Well, Kyrie left.
Yeah, Kyrie left. And then they did the same thing with the Lakers. It just happened to work out. They traded one championship. And now they're about to be depleted on assets too. So James ain't the only one. I'm not trying to crucify James for that. I'm just saying have some class about it and not just act a fool like he been acting. And I just when you collect $200 million, you just got to have some pride and show your employer some damn respect.
He ain't doing nothing that all the rest of the stars ain't doing. I got a question from Marcus, you and Charles. Charles, we Rocket fans or whatever, and Jay, say that I should feel like I got cheated on. That's how we should feel as Rocket fans, like he cheated on us.
I'm talking about the Game 7 no-shows. No, I'm talking about all of it.
I'm saying in general. So now that we turn the page on the James Harden thing, how will you view James Harden moving forward? Are y'all mad at him? Are you appreciative? Are you somewhere in between? Like, what's your thoughts?
Let me go first, Charles.
Go ahead.
I've been saying it all along. I'm so indifferent because, like I said, he ain't on my team no more, and I'm sticking by that. He ain't on my team. I wish him well, but hey, James Harden ain't no longer my problem. Now, when everything went down, I wanted to be done with it. Just like Charles said, hey, if Since he done voiced that he want to leave, let's hurry up and move him then. Do it smartly. Do it smartly and get what you can get out of it, because hey, I still love the Rockets, so I want what I can get out of the deal. But go ahead and get him up out of there, because as soon as he gone, the faster we can go ahead and get the business and get going. And it sounded to me like, listening to DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall, it's like, hey, he been hindering us by not buying in, and that's because we all know he was trying to force his way out of Houston. So I wish him well, just because he was an ex-Rocket, and I do want to see him at some point get a championship. Not at our expense, but I want to see him go out and get a championship, because I think he's that great of a player. But yeah, I'm so indifferent about it.
How do you feel about his tenure as a Rocket?
I mean, he kept us on the map. He kept us on the map the whole time that he was a Rocket. I don't think it was a time where we missed the playoff when he was a Rocket.
I'm gonna say this. Again, because I have the vantage point of being in Houston this whole time. I remember the years after Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming had gone. I remember. We tried to have a team where the best two players were Aaron Brooks and Trevor Ariza.
Yeah,
I remember those teams.
And then we brought in Ron Artest.
I remember, Kyle Lowry, kind of, morphing into the player that he ultimately became in Toronto. And then I remember Goran Dragic taking his spot. And then it was Demo. And then it was, like I remember these teams. And then all of a sudden, you get a semi-chubby looking guy with a mohawk and a big beard. And like every year, respect for the organization and the team on the floor and what they could possibly do increased. This is the only example that I can give, and I'm gonna just keep it Houston with it. All those years when Arian Foster was a running back for the Texans and they felt like he was too finesse, or they felt like he got injured a lot because he decided to broadcast that he was vegan, whatever the case may be. Then the moment he's no longer a Texan, we ain't had a real running back since then. I sit there and watch us not be able to convert 4th and 1, forever and ever. Now that James Harden is gone. And the fact that you knew at minimum you'd be competing in the second round of the playoffs. Just walked out the door. A lot of people gonna understand and have a little more respect for what actually happened on the floor. Even if you ain't like the guy, even if you ain't like his style. It's no to the level of threat, anytime soon. There's no telling when that's gonna happen.
Can I have the floor real quick?
Yeah.
So first off, I appreciate what you're saying. And you coming from, where was I pre-Steph, Aaron? Since the first 10 years of our friendship was living that Aaron Brooks life that you was talking about. So I'm with that. And what you're talking about is life in the NFL without a quarterback. When you ain't got a quarterback, you ain't got nothing. And I'm not messing around with no middle tier Kirk Cousins. If once a ceiling has been established, which is where I would argue the Rockets were right after that 2018 Western Conference Finals against the Warriors, that ceiling, that bad money was given out to Chris Paul, that's where the apex just fell off. And I would liken it, what you just described to me is, I went 10 years without a quality girlfriend or relationship. And, it was just rough times out there trying to date. And then I met this girl and she seemed to be perfect. She did this, and this for me, but she cheated on me. And it was like, I don't want to go back to that life of 10 years without having a girl, but why should I be putting up with this disrespect? And at some point I'm like, you know what? I got to start over. I can't be afraid of you think about the perfect girl that you passed up messing around with this badass girl. With James Harden, I'm arguing that not once that ceiling was established and he was killing the culture and stuff just wasn't right, move the hell on. because you ain't going to meet the right one. You missing on James Wiseman, LaMelo Ball because you didn't bottom out earlier. That's my point. I'll leave it at that.
Chuckers on the podcast, we appreciate you stopping by, brother. Give your take, and we'll have you on again at some other time if you're willing to do that. We appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching the Hoopz Junkiez podcast. If you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment down below. Also, if you want to check out a few more clips, make sure that you hit the bell notification so that you're alerted whenever we post a new video.